The Galactic Confederation had seen its share of conflicts. Millennia of interspecies diplomacy, war, and peace had shaped a vast and interconnected empire. But nothing could have prepared the galaxy for the horrors of the Peril War. The peaceful alien races were under siege by the mysterious and merciless North rays from the darkest fringes of the galaxy. The Confederation was on the brink of collapse, its finest warriors torn apart in battle. Hope was waning. That's when the Confederation turned to the Deathworlders, humans of Earth. The inhabitants of Earth, a death world by galactic standards, were a last-ditch hope. Few Confederation members had ever seen a human in the flesh, let alone fought beside one. Their world was a cradle of violence, where danger existed in every breath of air and every step on the ground. Despite being late to the stars, humans had thrived under conditions that would have driven most species to extinction. But could they really turn the tide against the North? In the command hall of the battered Galactic Confederation flagship, General Zaraku, an alien of slender build and purple-tinted skin, surveyed the holographic map of the warfront. The Confederation was losing system after system. Zaraku's antennae twitched nervously. "We need an answer, and we need it now," Zaraku said, directing the plea to the small group of unfamiliar, armored figures standing at attention in the corner. Captain Marcus Voss, a grizzled human soldier with scars from conflicts both on Earth and beyond, stepped forward. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and carried a presence that seemed almost primitive to the others in the room. His gray eyes scanned the map with an intensity that made even seasoned officers uneasy. "We'll handle it," Marcus said, his voice low but resolute. "Just show us where to hit them." Zaraku frowned. "You do realize we've sent some of our most elite forces into the fray. The North tore through them like tissue paper." Marcus smiled, a cold, predatory expression that made Zaraku's skin prickle. "Your elite forces aren't from a world where everything is trying to kill you. Ours are. You just need to give us the green light." The North homeworld loomed in the void, a dark, twisted planet with jagged, unnatural landscapes. Orbiting above it were the massive, organic warships of the North Fleet. Their ships were like living organisms, a grotesque amalgamation of biology and technology, pulsing with malevolent energy. The North themselves were no better spider-like creatures with a penchant for cruelty, moving with the precision of hive-minded killers. The humans had been given one shot. A single strike team was to infiltrate the planet and disable the planetary defense grid, allowing the Confederation fleet to launch a full-scale assault. Failure wasn't an option, but what the rest of the Confederation didn't realize was that humans never planned for failure, they planned for war. Marcus Voss and his squad of Earth's finest veterans of endless conflicts on the most hostile worlds imaginable stood at the brink of the North capital. Their landing had been brutal. Anti-air fire had decimated the drop ships, and only Marcus and a handful of his team had survived. They found themselves surrounded by North forces, outnumbered and outgunned. "We're in deep," muttered Lieutenant Imani Reyes, her dark eyes scanning the horizon, where North sentinels skittered and hissed, closing in on their position. "We've been in worse," Marcus replied, his voice calm despite the chaos around them. "Remember New Alaska?" Imani grinned. "How could I forget?" They crouched behind a shattered piece of North architecture, waiting for the right moment. Marcus checked his communino signal. The North's biotech scrambled their equipment. He couldn't call for extraction. They were on their own. "Okay," Marcus said, his voice suddenly taking on a steely edge. "We push through, hard and fast." The squad nodded in unison. It was pure carnage. The North were quick, but the humans were quicker. The aliens came in waves, their sharp claws slicing through the air. Before every North that lunged forward, a human met it with calculated brutality. Marcus fought like a demon, his rifle spitting out rounds with deadly precision. Imani was a blur of motion, her combat knife flashing as she slashed through the chitinous armor of the North warriors. The battlefield was a testament to human savagery, where other species might retreat in the face of such overwhelming odds. The Deathworlders thrived. They adapted, using their surroundings, exploiting weaknesses in the North forces with a ruthlessness that shocked even their enemies. At one point, a massive Nerf warbeast living tank with armor too thick for standard weapons charged their position. Marcus grinned as he unclipped an explosive charge from his belt. Running straight at the beast, he dodged its crushing mandibles, slipped beneath its massive legs, and attached the charge to its underbelly. A few seconds later, the ground shook as the creature exploded into a mist of biofluid. "We're clear," Marcus barked. "Move up." The squad pushed deeper into the Nerf capital, cutting through the alien forces with terrifying efficiency. They fought with a single-minded determination, knowing the fate of the galaxy rested on their shoulders. By the time they reached the control nexus, they were bloody but unbroken. The Nerf resistance had faltered, and Marcus's team stood at the heart of their enemy's stronghold. "Plant the charges," Marcus ordered, his voice hoarse but unwavering. Imani and the others swiftly moved into position, setting up the explosives around the defense grid's central hub. The timer ticked down. "Let's get the hell out of here." Above the Nerf homeworld, the Confederation fleet watched in awe as the planetary defense grid went dark. General Zarakiu, aboard the flagship, could hardly believe what he was seeing. "They did it," Zarakiu whispered in disbelief. "The humans, they actually did it." Without the defense grid, the fleet unleashed its full might upon the Nerf forces. Explosions lit up the void as the Confederation capital ships opened fire, obliterating the enemy's warships. As the battle raged above, Marcus and his team emerged from the carnage below. Battered but victorious, the Nerf capital was in flames, and the galaxy had just witnessed the true might of Deathworlders. The dust settled on the Nerf homeworld, its once proud capital reduced to smoldering ruins. The Galactic Confederation fleet had decimated the enemy's defenses from orbit, and the Nerf, who had once seemed unstoppable, were now in full retreat. But for Marcus Voss and his team, the war was far from over. On board the GCV Resolute, the flagship of the Confederation fleet, General Zarakiu and the other high-ranking officers anxiously awaited the return of the human strike team. The battle had been won, but they knew that this small group of Deathworlders had been the key to their victory. Without them, the war would still be tipping in the Nerf's favor. Inside the Resolute's hangar, Marcus and his team stepped off their battered dropship. They were tired, bruised, and covered in alien gore, but they were alive. Imani raised limbs slightly, her left arm bandaged hastily, while the others looked equally battle-worn, but there was a spark in their eyes. Victory. General Zarakiu stood at the edge of the hangar bay, flanked by officers from various species, all of them eager to see the humans who had accomplished the impossible. As Marcus approached, Zarakiu extended his thin, purple-tinted hand. "Captain Voss," Zarakiu said, his voice tinged with awe, "you've done more than anyone thought possible. The Confederation owes you a debt." Marcus eyed the general with the calm intensity that came naturally to humans. His face was unreadable, but behind those gray eyes, he was still analyzing, still preparing for the next fight. He shook Zarakiu's hand, his grip firm. "We did what had to be done," Marcus replied, "but it's not over." The general's antennae twitched in confusion. "Not over. The Nerf defense grid is down, and their forces are in disarray. Our fleet is securing the system as we speak." Imani stepped forward, her voice grim. "The Nerf aren't the type to retreat and lick their wounds. They're regrouping. You might have broken their defenses, but we're far from wiping them out. They're not finished." Zarakiu glanced at the others around him. The officers murmured nervously. The Nerf had already taken countless lives across the Confederation's worlds. Could they really regroup so quickly? Marcus straightened up, his tone sharp and commanding. "You don't win wars by breaking defenses. You win them by breaking the enemy's will. Right now, the Nerf know they can't still fight. They're out there, planning their next move." "Do you have intelligence suggesting they'll retaliate?" Zarakiu asked. Marcus sighed. "We fought things like the Nerf before, maybe not on this scale, but we know the pattern. They're brutal, relentless, and they never accept defeat. This isn't just a war for territory to them, it's survival." Hours later, Marcus and his team were debriefed by the Confederation's High Council. The Grand Chamber was filled with the most powerful leaders of the galaxy, representatives of species, that had never before seen war on such a scale. The Nerith had united them out of necessity, but fear and uncertainty hung in the air. The human team stood before the council, their presence a stark contrast to the delicately robed officials. Marcus, standing at the forefront, addressed the assembly. "I'm not here to sugarcoat things," he said bluntly. "The Nerith are going to strike back harder than ever. You think the loss of one homeworld will stop them? It won't. They'll evolve, adapt, and retaliate with more ferocity. If you want to survive, we have to hit them where it really hurts." A tall, avian-like council member, feathers shimmering in the chamber's artificial light, spoke up. "And where do you propose we strike? Human, their fleets are scattered. Their forces are fleeing. They have no centralized control left." Imani stepped forward, her voice clear and confident. "They do. The Nerith aren't a typical hive mind, but they're close. There's something deeper controlling them, something we saw traces of when we infiltrated their capital. It's not just a biological entity, but something much older, much more dangerous." The council murmured nervously. "Are you suggesting there's something beyond their visible hierarchy?" another official asked. Marcus nodded. "There is. We found evidence of an ancient central intelligence, something that's guiding their movements and ensuring their survival. It's what makes the Nerith so damn hard to beat. They don't just fight, they evolve, and they're evolving faster than we can keep up." The room fell silent, tension rising. "So what do you propose?" Syracuse asked, his antennae twitching with unease. "We need to locate and destroy this central intelligence," Marcus said, his voice firm. "It won't be easy. It's likely buried deep within their core territories, heavily fortified and guarded by the most dangerous forces they've got. But if we take it out, the Nerith will fall apart. They won't be able to adapt anymore. They'll be vulnerable." "And what makes you think your species is up to the test?" asked a reptilian counselor, his yellow eyes narrowing skeptically. Marcus looked around the room, his gaze hard and unwavering. "Because we come from a world that tried to kill us from the moment we were born. We've faced extinction more times than we can count by our own hands, by the planets, by the universe cruel design. And every time, we survived." Imani nodded. "Earth isn't a peaceful world. It's a crucible of violence. We fight, we adapt, and we conquer because we have to. And if we can survive Earth, we can survive anything the Nerith throw at us." The counselors exchanged uneasy glances. The humans' words were terrifying, but they were also convincing. General Syracuse, after a long pause, finally spoke. "Very well, Captain Voss, you and your team have proven yourselves beyond doubt. If you believe this central intelligence is the key, then the Confederation will grant you the resources you need." Marcus and Imani exchanged a look. The next phase of the war had just begun. The GCV Resolute began its journey deeper into Nerith space, escorted by a small fleet of Confederation warships. The humans had earned the trust of the galactic forces, but now they would face their greatest challenge, yet locating and destroying the heart of the Nerith Empire.